What I thought was really interesting was the Institute for Fiscal Studies and their assessment of the manifestos. I mean, they've been quietly scathing of most of the parties, but when it came to Labour's, they said most of the spending that is pledged is from within existing budgets, and in many cases represents only small changes to how that money is already planned to be spent.
Yeah,
basically, steady as she goes, cautious.
Giveaway stuff, isn't it? It's not real politics. It's just saying, well, I would spend a bit more than this and that. To be fair to them, the two parties who have actually been saying real things are Reform and the Greens, in the sense that Malcolm offered it might be barmy, it might not work, but he's saying I would significantly cut tax in order to try to inspire economic growth. That's real politics, you know. That is something significant. Where the Greens are, you know, saying we ideally would do the opposite. We would be looking to significantly increase tax private schools, all the rest of it, in order to spend more in public services and get Scotland out of its hole that way. It kind of feels like between that, Labour are sort of sitting in the fence a lot of stuff. They don't want to say anything that's particularly out of step with London, and I don't think there's anything in that manifesto that's. I don't imagine that anyone who was sitting on the fence is going to read that and think, right, okay, I'm definitely voting for them now.
I just feel like when you're 20 points behind, it shouldn't be that party that's holding the Ming vase when it comes to policy. You have to go for it. You have to say stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And I go back to Salmon's win in 2007. You know, he said we will dump student debt. Got a lot of students voting for him. 2 weeks after they won, Swinney stands up. I think it was Swinney as finance secretary saying, we've had a look at the books and we can't dump the debt. Say what you need to say to win. That's the issue. Are you saying
that Labour need to tell some lies here?
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, you know, be bold and ambitious, and, you know, you can always blame the outgoing government if the finances are a lot worse than you expected.
You can always blame changes to the economic outlook in a few months.
I just think that this idea, you know, reading Labour's manifesto, that what the public really want is fiscal responsibility at this moment in time. I'm not buying it. I think they want to be better off. They want more money in their pockets, and they don't want caution.
Yeah, I think that's right. And that is, yeah, you needed at least 2 or 3 things in there that were big ticket things that could potentially change the game, and have journalists talking about them, and, you know, rather than that, it's fiscal responsibility. We would.
Having said it's a manifesto, if they were to get in, it's a manifesto they could keep. You know, there wouldn't be any need to break any of the promises, because they're all relatively doable. But
I mean, you know, someone I would probably describe you as more fiscally conservative than the average Planet Holyrood podcaster. I mean, you would have been pretty relaxed with the Labour manifesto.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, John was saying before, I mean, the Conservatives have pledged to bring tax back in line with the rest of the UK. Reform are obviously saying we'll then go on 1p and then up to 3p lower, which is a hell of a bold claim. So that and Labour have sort of said, if we get economic growth above 2%, we'll bring it back in line with the UK. Yeah, so there is this broad agreement that it should be in line with the UK. I mean, that's where I am on it. I don't think it's especially conservative. I want tax to be in line with a Labour government at Westminster. At the moment, we're taxed more heavily than people in the rest of the UK.
I think one of the problems for Labour is that the perception is that at Westminster, Labour were very conservative on promises in the election, and then have gone on to under-deliver, and it kind of looks like the same thing could happen here. They're being very conservative in what they're saying they would do, but all of the economists are saying, well, even that's going to be very difficult because you've got this 5 billion black hole that needs filled. That is the reality is going to be cuts rather than spending increases.
The other thing Labour could do is take a leaf out of the SNP's book and just come up with a gimmick. I mean, the P1 School bag.
Oh my God, I forgot all about that.
You know, it's relatively cheap. You're just giving away a few rulers and stationery, spelled incorrectly in the press release, by the way. Rulers, pencils, pens, stuff you can buy in, you know, B&M bargains for a few quid.
Well, I think
A free stapler for every kid.
But it's again, it gets people talking. A giveaway gimmick to everyone would help.
I noticed a story just before we come on. I think the SNP have announced a policy today that they're going to give all artists, writers, and even comedians like some kind of living wage if they win the election. So, you know, I imagine this is going to be fantastic fodder for the Express. There's a few comedians in politics
that's just what we need in Scotland, more self-published poets. Excellent.
Doesn't include journalists, I take it.
No, it's not as far as I can see.
Okay.
Unless they're very funny.
Look, bottom line is the SNP have got their manifesto coming up. They don't really need to do much. Just build on existing policies. A greatest hits tour.
Don't drop the Ming vase, like you say.
Don't scare the horses. The focus is on the opposition to do the running, and I don't think the SNP need to do anything spectacular at all.